Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Forsyth County Connections, coming to you from the studios of Cable 2, courtesy of the good folks at Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System. And we do appreciate their hospitality. We have a lot on tap for you today. We're going to talk about a lot of things, trying to avoid summer injuries and illnesses. We'll talk about breastfeeding education, lots on tap. But where we want to start is something pretty topical, because you hear about election news all the time. Well, we have elections coming up, and we have an expert in this field who's going to help us through this. Michelle Bobadilla is Deputy Director of Forsyth County Board of Elections. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, people talk about the presidential election, but we have stuff going on locally coming up. Now, when's that going to occur, and what kind of offices will be running?
Yeah, this year we have the primary election for High Point, and we have the municipal general election in November. So High Point primary election is October 10th, and municipal general election is November 7th.
So is that for mayor and stuff like that?
Yeah, so for the municipalities around Winston-Salem, for mayors, the aldermen.
Now, I understand there's a new requirement for voter ID. It's been a controversy. We don't have to get into all the controversies in politics and stuff, but when do these new requirements for voter ID go into effect? Is it now or when?
Yeah, so voters will be required to show a photo ID when coming to vote in North Carolina, starting this 2023 municipal election.
Well, what kind of an ID is going to be, because there are a lot of different kinds of IDs, I guess.
Yeah.
What would you consider acceptable if I came in to vote?
So most voters will have a driver's license to show, but there's a list of acceptable photo IDs. One of them is your passport if you don't have a driver's license, or a student or employer ID that has been accepted by the State Board of Elections. Folks can check the list of acceptable photo IDs at the State Board's website and soon on our website. If you do not have a photo ID, you can get one through the DMV. It's called No Fee ID, so it's free of charge.
Oh, okay.
And our office will soon produce on-demand photo ID cards.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk for a minute about how people's appearance can change and how that might affect, because I'm sensitive to this, because not long ago I was young and handsome and virile, and now I'm old and fat and ugly. Okay, now here's the serious question. Here's a serious question. If I show up and I look different from when my photo was taken,
Yeah.
and I say, here, I'm here to vote, I mean, are they going to reject it and say, I'm sorry, you can't vote, we don't think that's you?
So there's a little bit of a process for that. While you're working, those workers are trained to check the photo ID for a reasonable resemblance. So you don't have to look exactly the same as long as you resemble that picture, because none of us are experts on pictures, right?
Right.
So if the workers working the polling place on election day or early voting together decide that you don't resemble that photo, there's a process to fill out a form where they would say why they think that you don't resemble, and go from there.
Okay, earlier I mentioned presidential elections. Now, what are you doing to gear up for that?
So we're constantly prepping, because every year we have an election. So even though the municipal election is coming up now, we are already planning for the presidential election in March, the primary. So there's lots of things that we're doing, just supplies, making sure that we have enough workers, our precinct officials being appointed.
Now, what about poll workers? Are you always in need of poll workers?
Yeah, always. We need so much people working the polls, working in our office, working early voting, so we are constantly recruiting. Now,
how can I volunteer, and are there any requirements? If I say, hey, Michelle, I'd really like to be a poll worker, I'd like to volunteer. Are there certain things that I have to be qualified to do, or how does that happen, or I get trained, or what happens?
Yeah, you have to be registered to vote in Forsyth County. And you can go to our website, fill out the application to work. You can choose if you want to work early voting. You can choose if you want to work election day, or in any other capacity. We have several options, and we'll contact you.
Right. And then do you give me information so that is there a lot of involved training or classes or anything I should know about?
Yeah, training is required for working the elections. There's so many changes all the time. that we want to make sure that you're most updated with everything and know what you're doing while you're serving as a precinct official or a poll worker, an election worker on early voting. So yes, we'll provide you training.
As I told you off camera, when my mom was alive, she was a poll worker and an election judge and served in all these capacities, and she loved it and gave a lot of hours of her time, and I know it's the same for your volunteers, and God bless them. They do a great job, and you guys overall do a great job in keeping things fair and in the election. So thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
I want to just mention www.fcvotes.com is a good place to go for more information
Yes.
too. Michelle, thanks for everything.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this.
Help emergency responders help you when you can't help yourself. Forsyth Cares, the Community Assistance Registry for Emergency Services, allows you to register yourself or someone in your household sharing health conditions or information that might aid in your care should your home be the subject of a 911 call.
911, what's your emergency?
Operators will seek critical information, medications, conditions, or in the case of a wandering child or an adult with cognitive disabilities, places they like to go, or even if they have access to a vehicle. The information is stored in a database only accessible to first responders and 911 agents. Get more information at forsyth.cc/Forsyth Cares. In the moment that your life depends on a fast response, get information to first responders that can aid in your or your loved one's care. That's forsyth.cc/Forsyth Cares.
Back now on Forsyth County Connections, and I want to talk about something that I am not an expert in. I'm not going to pretend to be. And that's the very reason we're doing this, because we want men and women who are watching right now to listen to what Sheila has to say. Sheila Britt-Smith, she's a nutritionist supervisor for the county. Thanks for being back here.
Thank you for asking.
We're going to talk about breastfeeding. Now, why should parents even consider, we'll get into the education part in a second. Why should they even consider breastfeeding? Because people say, well, they can do bottle this and bottle that. Why should they consider it?
There are a lot of reasons why breastfeeding becomes important for families. One is the health of the baby. We look at so much research, and it shows that babies that are breastfed, and you're looking at short-term and long-term, but it decreases ear infections, upper respiratory infections.
I didn't know that.
It impacts a reduction in asthma, decreases obesity, has the impact as an adult. So this is a baby that receives breast milk that as an adult, it helps to decrease diabetes and certain types of cancer.
So you're saying that breast milk is a natural preventative?
Yes, and for women that breastfeed, it helps to decrease diabetes, cardiovascular issues for them as they get older. Financially, it decreases the outlay cost, and even though I may work with the Women, Infants, and Children's program, families don't recognize that in WIC, it doesn't pay for all of the formula.
Right.
There's still a cost. So we look at medical for infants, medical for families, as well as the cost outlay, and then environmental, because there's less waste going
Right.
into landfills.
Well, now, how long should a mother breastfeed, and what does she do if she works for a living and at some point goes back to work and has to breastfeed? So address those very quickly for us.
When we look at how long, the American Academy of Pediatrics and the World Health Organization both encourage 2 years. I encourage families, don't look at 2 years. I'd love for you to consider that. Start the journey and make sure that you've got resources available, prenatal education, postpartum education in the hospitals and the community. And because working is such an issue for mothers, and so many of them think that they have to stop breastfeeding when they go back to work, and because we just expanded the Pump Act so that employers are mandated to look at providing a place for women to pump that is not a bathroom.
Right.
That they're looking at being able to support that for a whole year. That really becomes impactful in decreasing issues with absenteeism because those babies are healthier, therefore you're not having to have an employee out as frequently. And I always encourage employers to think about, you can plan for a break when a mother needs to pump. You can't plan for an absenteeism because a baby is sick.
I didn't think about that. Look, before time runs out, you and I are emailing back and forth about the fact that there's some men who just like me who ignorantly will say something like, well, don't women just know how to breastfeed? Don't they know all these things anyway? And you're going, no, they don't. And so why do they not? And is there information and resources available to them?
Breastfeeding, while it may be a natural process, it may be normal, the human species needs breast milk as human milk. The issue is a lot of families they didn't grow up in a breastfeeding family, they've never read about it, nobody provides education. So I really encourage families, not just the pregnant individual, to look at information from their OBGYN, from their pediatrics. USDA.gov is an amazing resource for information, as well as the CDC. WIC programs that are out there are just a tremendous wealth of information because support people matter. When a mother has someone that says, I believe in you being successful, this is important for our family, now all of a sudden that support helps her to be successful.
Sheila, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, and we can talk about this forever. We want to get you back sometime and cover this some more. But again, the message here that breast milk is a natural preventative. It does so many things, and thanks for educating me on this and all you do.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
Back now on Forsyth County Connections, and so glad to welcome back this special guest. He's been with us before. He's a great guy. Rick Hall is Division Director of Adult Services for the Forsyth County Department of Social Services. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's talk about, you emailed me something about, it was called the Quality Aging Conference. And I thought to myself, I haven't heard of this before, and there's a reason for that. What is it, and how did it come about?
Well, this is a first-time event for us. You know, in school, we learn about all kinds of things, math, science, and reading, but nobody tells us how to age well. We have a lot of questions.
Amen, brother.
We have a lot of questions about what it's like to be a senior. And in fact, every day in the Adult Services Division of Forsyth County where we work, we get those questions all the time. And so our director of Forsyth DSS, she said, you know what? Our aging populations needs to know some of those answers. And ultimately, this conference is all about answering really one particular question. How do I get the support I need to age in place and remain safe in my home as long as I can? And so this conference is all about providing information to help people do that, to age well.
I don't know, you know, I'm thinking out loud to myself here, okay, I'll be 70 pretty soon. So obviously this would be a good thing for me to go to, but is it just for older people?
You know, it's a good question, and really, it is for any older adult or someone who may consider themselves to be a caregiver for an older adult, because a lot of those same questions that the older adults will ask, their caregivers will also be asking.
It's a good idea. So an adult child who maybe is responsible for mom or dad or whatever. Okay, yeah. I got you. Now, if I'm at this conference, what am I expecting? What do you think I'm going to see? I mean, what am I going to see and learn? Give me a couple specifics.
We're excited about that. We've got a great lineup of topics and great speakers, including things like navigating Medicare open enrollment. It's something that happens every year, but every year we have questions. And so this is going to be happening in September, and it's right before open enrollment. We feel like it's going to be really timely information.
And there's so much, as you know, there's so much misinformation from these TV ads, you know, about, and then some of them are scammy, you know.
Exactly. And one of the exciting things about that topic is we're going to have experts there because they're part of our senior health insurance information program, and they'll be able to provide the real answers to the real questions that people have.
Yeah, Rick, is this going to cost me anything to attend?
No, in fact, this is a free event, but because it's a free event, we encourage everyone to register as soon as possible when registration opens, and registration will be opening in early August.
Yeah, because there's only so much seating, so even though I can get in there for free, you know, there may not be room for me if I wait too long. What about, I know this sounds like a selfish question, but well, you know, you go to a conference, you want to ask these things. What about lunch or refreshments or things like that?
That's great, and that is an important question, and we are going to be providing snacks, hot lunch. In fact, we've got a lot of exciting things planned. Not only are we going to have our great speakers there, but we're going to have vendors, and those vendors will be local providers, nonprofits, and things like that, that will provide information about resources that older adults and caregivers want to know about.
Now, how can folks register? Is it difficult to register? Or?
It is as simple as can be. In fact, we've got two great options for people. One way that they can register, if they're a little bit tech savvy, they can log on to the county website. We're going to have a link there where they can log right into a simple online registration. For those who say, I don't know about all that online stuff, but is there another way I could do it? Sure is. We can have folks, if they'd prefer, call Adult Services Division at Forsyth DSS, and that number is 336-703-3501. And when they call that number, all they need to say is, I'm interested in registering for the aging conference.
703-3501. Now, I don't know if we'll have time to get this up on screen or not, but I'll say it. Quality Aging Conference, Tuesday, September 19th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Galilee Missionary Baptist Church, Northampton Drive in Winston-Salem. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Rick, you do so many things for so many people, and I appreciate you taking time to talk about this, my friend.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you again, Jim.
We'll be right back after this.
Don't procrastinate. Vaccinate. School immunizations are available right now at Forsyth County Department of Public Health. Make sure your child is prepared for next school year by getting their immunizations now. Immunizations are available at no charge for Medicaid and uninsured patients. Call 336-703-3324 to schedule an appointment. For more information, visit forsyth.cc/public health. Forsyth County Department of Public Health, promoting health, improving lives.
Back now on this edition of Forsyth County Connection. So glad you stayed with us. We have a very special guest who's been with us before, and he is one of the busiest guys I know because there's so many projects going on in the county, and he has a handle on all of them. We're going to ask him to update us right now. James Anderson is Design and Construction Manager for Forsyth County. Welcome back to the show.
Good afternoon, Jim. Good to see you again.
As we do that, let's remind folks that maybe didn't see the program before. You know, you've been in your position for a while, and how long is that, and what areas of responsibility do you have?
So I've been with the county going on 16 years now. I've been in the construction manager for about 3 years. I oversee all of the capital renewal, new construction, and major renovation projects for county facilities. And I have a team of 4 guys that work for me, great gentlemen, do great work, and really could not accomplish the things that I do without their help and support.
Well, I know what you mean, and you do have a great team, and it's a lot of responsibility on you. What I want to do is I want to sort of throw out some names, and in the time that we have allotted, some projects that are going on, and get you to comment on them, because you had sent me an email about some of them, and I sort of picked out some. Callidium, let's start with that.
So the Callidium project, we've been in construction now for right at 2 years on that project. We started on that back in 2017 actually, with the planning and design of merging the Children's Museum downtown with the SciWorks facility up north, just up the road here at Haynes Mill Road. And so when those two merged, the county said, hey, we're going to build you a building to put this wonderful museum in. And so after a couple years of design and a couple years of construction, we're nearing the end of that project.
When will we be able to go in and take kids and see things?
So if all goes to plan, the museum's going to start putting their exhibits in this fall, and then they'll be ready for an opening early January or early February of this coming year.
That's great. As much work as you've done to spearhead some of these things, I ought to have your name on the building. Then the kids can say, hey, what does this mean? I'm entering the James Anderson building. All right, tell me about the courthouse project. People have been seeing that going up forever.
Yeah, so the courthouse is almost complete now. I actually anticipate probably having that turned over to the county here in the next week. And probably the most exciting thing about that project for the folks downtown is we reopened Chestnut and 2nd Streets a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, that's good.
That really helped the traffic flow, and now we're in the process of getting furniture moved into the building. We're knee deep in move management planning, so we're planning on October starting to move in the court staff over about a 2-week period. And then about the 3rd week of October, we'll be live in the new courthouse.
All right. 2 things with the airport I want you to comment on: the corporate hangar project and the terminal itself. Tell me about them.
So the corporate hangar project, we're finishing that up now. It's 2 20,000 square foot hangars, one of which has already been leased out to Signature Flight Support, the fixed base operator there at the airport. And the hangars were sized to hold some of the largest general aviation private jet aircraft that's on the market. And talking to Signature this morning while we were doing a punch list inspection of one of the hangars, they've already got a list of clients that's ready to put their jets
That's great.
in that hangar.
That's
So
great.
it's going to be a wonderful addition to the airport. They're sorely lacking in corporate hangar space.
Right, and fixing up the terminal?
And so the terminal project, we're getting ready to start construction on that sometime in August. And so it's going to be a real gem to bring that back to some of the 1940s character that the original terminal had.
Yeah, I used to fly out of there too. So I mean, I remember what you're talking about. It was a great facility.
It really is, you know, and part of the design process, learning about the historic nature of the facility and how, you know, it actually mimics, you know, a steam liner in its design. So
Yeah.
we'll see some railings coming back and really bring back that original character and flair of the building.
I just think that's great. We just have a few seconds left. Ballew's Lake Park, what's going on there?
So up at Ballew's, that one is probably one of the best projects we've got going on right now. It's up in the northeast part of the county. It's going to be the farthest out park that we have, and the county hasn't really had a park up in that area to serve that community. So developing that 200-acre parcel of land is going to be a really nice thing for the county to have up there. And so bar construction, they started back in February, and they're on track to finish in late October, early November, which is about 4 months ahead of schedule.
Of this year?
Of this year.
And we'll be able to do all sorts of activities out there.
Yep, so the initial phase is going to have some fishing docks, picnic shelter, some walking trails, and then if we get some funding from the state or other sources, we'll be able to do a second phase, which includes more trails, more picnic shelters,
Right.
and a nature education center.
I think that's great. James, thanks for bringing us up to speed on all this. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you spending a couple minutes with us. Thanks a lot for all you do.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
Every year, 4.5 million young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 visit the ER.
It's every parent's nightmare.
Umergency gives you all the tools you need to quickly and effectively manage your family's emergency. Umergency provides instant access to vital resources, customized to your student's campus and local community, digital consent form, and built-in urgent alert button. Umergency gives you peace of mind when you need it most. Download your Umergency app now.
Back now for our final segment of this edition of Forsyth County Connections, and we've had some great topics and guests so far. This time, I want to spend the next few minutes talking about something that's very important and very topical, because with the hot weather that we have now, we want to avoid certain types of summertime injuries and illnesses. To help us through this topic is Taylor Ziehl. She's a paramedic with Forsyth County Emergency Services. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
As I said, hot weather's here. Now let's talk about 2 types of heat-related illnesses. What would those 2 big ones be?
The 2 most severe types would be heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
All right. And sometimes people interchange those, and we don't mean to, but maybe some of us just don't. I don't understand it sometimes. Give us sort of educate us a little bit about the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
So heat exhaustion is caused from being volume depleted, like you've had an excess of sweating and you just don't have much fluid in your body anymore, where heat stroke is actually caused by your body's not able to regulate your temperature any longer. in the environment that it's in.
And sometimes I guess one leads to the other?
Correct, yeah. Heat exhaustion will eventually lead to heat stroke.
All right, what are some of the warning signs that we should look for if you're a parent or if you have an elderly person with you or anybody and you're out around the lake or the beach or something and doing an activity? What should you look for to tell you that something's going on?
So the early signs would be just increased fatigue, excessive sweating. You could start feeling faint, start having muscle cramps. It's a lot of things, but those are probably the very early signs that you need to seek shelter and cool off.
All right, now who's at greatest risk for heat stroke and heat exhaustion? Is there something you could educate me on in terms of gender, age, race? What about that? What can you?
So definitely people over the age of 65 and then children under the age of 4 are at greatest risk. Also obese people, and there's actually certain medications that you could be prescribed that will make it difficult for your body to regulate temperature as well.
What can we do? Let's talk prevention for a second. What are some things we can do to mitigate the situation so that we can avoid heat-related illnesses?
So you always want to stay hydrated, especially if you know you have an event coming up where you're going to be outside for an extended period of time. You want to hydrate days in advance.
I didn't know that. So even before you're going out for this outdoor activity thing, you need to be drinking water and Gatorade and whatever.
Yes, definitely. You also need to make sure that you have the opportunity to take breaks to be able to seek shelter or shade, remain hydrated and cool while you're outside. Don't overdo it. If you do have like say you have a lot of yard work coming up that you need to do,
right?
Try to have like a buddy with you, just in case something happens while you're out there. You know, there's a backup plan. There's somebody there with you that can call for help if you need it or help you get into side.
Well, now since you mentioned calling for help, and that means 911 and bringing folks like you in to help, I understand that. But what happens in the interim if somebody's in trouble and heat stroke and you think that's what it is and they're having difficulty? What should I be doing while you're on your way there?
So the first and foremost, you need to remove them from the heat source. So if they're outside, get them indoors into air conditioning. If there's no shelter nearby, get them into shade. You want to get any type of constricting clothing off. And if it's available, you need to start putting ice packs on them, really trying to cool down their body temperature.
Right. Before we run out of time, very quickly, tell me what it is that's gratifying to you about the job that you do.
So I feel very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity where I can make a difference in people's lives. People call us on some of their worst days, and it's extremely gratifying to be able to show up and give people hope during some of their worst times.
Well, you do a fantastic job, and we couldn't do without you. I really appreciate your service to the county and
Thank you.
to all the folks. We want to sort of wrap up here. One thing I want to mention, you've been seeing this graphic behind us throughout the whole show. So if you want to, you can go to connectwith.forsythcountync.gov and get all sorts of information about the show and what's going on. And a lot of these are posted on YouTube, and we're on the air at different places. So I hope you will watch that. I also want to, as we wrap up today, thank, of course, TJ James, Kevin Wren, the crew here at Cable 2 and their hospitality to have us here. And of course, Ed McNeil for helping to produce the show, Jeff Fabrizio, and our executive producer, County Manager Dudley Watts. For all of us here, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next time.